welcome to No Guilt, Just Growth. I'm Kristen Pomper, wife, coach, and corporate working mom of two. I help ambitious working moms stop running on empty and start building lives they're obsessed with without the guilt or burnout. I'm on a mission to redefine what success looks like for moms, because one thing I know for sure, it's not about putting everyone else's needs above your own. If you're ready to stop surviving and start thriving, you're in the right place. Welcome to the very first episode of No Guilt, Just Growth. I want to start off by saying it is not lost on me how precious your time is. So thank you truly for spending some of it with me. I consider it such an honor, one that I don't take lightly. And knowing how busy you are, my promise to you is to pack so much value into every single episode. Who exactly is this podcast for? If you're a working mom who feels like you're doing everything for everyone except yourself, if you're crushing it at work and holding it down at home, but quietly drowning in the process, if you've ever felt guilty for wanting more energy, more patience, more presence, more joy, more you are not alone. I have felt all of those things and then some. This podcast was created with you in mind. Before we get into it, I want to be so clear about something. I didn't create this podcast because I feel like I have it all figured out. In fact, for the many months leading up to me hitting record today, I have felt like a complete imposter, to be honest, questioning whether or not I'm even qualified to be in your ears right now, because I'm still very much figuring it out myself. But here's what I do know. I created this podcast because I've been in the chaos you may find yourself living through right now. And while I still have my days, I'm super freaking proud of how I show up for my husband, for my kids, for my career, and most importantly, for myself. I will also be the first to admit that it wasn't always like this for me. I remember so vividly trying to keep it all together. A demanding career, a marriage that needed tending to, babies who constantly needed me. There was never enough of me to go around. I was so exhausted. Even after the rare full night of sleep, I felt like I was falling behind at work. I was snapping at my husband way more than I should have. I was missing moments with my kids, moments that I know I'm never going to be able to get back. And I felt so guilty for even thinking about taking time for myself, let alone taking the actual time. The pressure to remember everything, be everything, and never ask for help. Does that all sound familiar? Because I know it all too well. As I tried to figure out how to get myself out of this funk, it kind of dawned on me that I was giving everyone else the best of me and giving myself the leftovers, which, to be honest, most days there wasn't anything left over. I knew I couldn't live like that anymore. So I stopped chasing balance through hustle and started creating it through systems and habits. I rewired the guilt, which I had a lot of when I thought about doing anything for myself. I built routines that actually served me, and I created a life that no longer ran on survival mode. And now I'm on a mission to help other women do the same. And this podcast is part of that mission, because here's what I believe with every ounce of me. And this is kind of controversial. You can have it all: a thriving career, a strong marriage, an active social life, your health, mental, physical, emotional, pursuing your dreams and passions, and be an amazing mom. You don't have to choose between your family or your career and yourself. You don't have to shrink or self-sacrifice in order to be an incredible mom. I think you just need systems, support, and the space to prioritize yourself again. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing here every single week. I figured I would start off the podcast by sharing a little bit about my story. I met my husband and best friend Bobby on Bumble. Our first date was watching a Thursday night football game over pizza and beer. I was his first and only online date, whereas I almost canceled our date because I had already gone on 2 first dates that week, which were pretty terrible. Yes, Bobby was my 3rd date that week. I was kind of a serial dater, so please don't judge me on that. But here we are, 6 years married this September with 2 incredible kiddos. Our oldest, Olivia, just recently turned 3 as of this recording, and our little man, Grady, is soon to be 1. We're doing this thing called life just outside of Seattle, Washington. When I found out I was pregnant with Liv, I did all of the things. I read the books, listened to the podcasts, had the Pinterest boards. In fact, before the sales career that I'm in now, I spent 8 years working with little kids, managing a before and after school care program. So if there were prereqs for motherhood, I had aced them. On paper, I was ready. But as a parent, you know all too well, nothing truly prepares you for motherhood. Olivia was 7 days early. My water broke at home. And after 5.5 long hours of pushing, my medical team realized that her head kept bumping into my pubic bone. So they decided to have one go at getting her out via forceps. For anyone that doesn't know what forceps are, they are basically medical salad tongs. Without getting too graphic, those salad tongs guided Liv out, leaving me with a 4th-degree tear. Those days in the hospital were such a blur. I was so exhausted from labor. I kid you not, I looked like the Michelin Man. I was so swollen and puffy. I wish I took pictures to show you what it looked like, but you don't even want to see it. I was unrecognizable. I remember not wanting to leave the hospital. I felt like I needed the nurses' help around the clock to recover. The thought of bringing Liv home to take care of her on my own terrified me because I was struggling so much with my own recovery. Those first few weeks at home were so miserable. At one of Liv's first doctor's appointments, we found out that her weight had dropped significantly. So I was put on an around-the-clock feeding schedule. And that's when we discovered that my milk had never dropped. I was barely producing like an ounce each pumping session, which was on demand, I think like every 2 hours. After what felt like a million trips to lactation specialists and trying to get her to latch and just being completely a slave to the pump, honestly, I just started dreading this thing called motherhood. I felt like everything around me looked so magical. There were pink balloons and flowers that friends and family had brought, the perfectly folded onesies in her dresser that I had pre-folded, frozen dinners like in the freezer. Everything on the outside seemed great, but inside, I felt so empty, so disconnected, both from Liv and just overall my role as a mom. I didn't recognize myself. And at first, I blamed the hormones, the lack of sleep, but the heaviness never lifted. I've battled depression pretty severely before, so deep down, I think I knew what it was, and I just wasn't ready to say it out loud. I think because of the depression that I had before, I was afraid to admit it. I think I just thought, like, how could I admit feeling these feelings when I had this healthy, beautiful baby? I felt like I was failing at something that I'd waited my whole life for. I always wanted to be a mom, and that shame was so paralyzing. I was thinking, am I broken for not loving this? I had friends and coworkers struggling to get pregnant, so how dare I feel this way? So I stayed quiet. I didn't vocalize anything that I was going through out of fear that people would think that I didn't love her, that I was ungrateful, that I resented having her. But the truth is, I never regretted becoming a mom. I was just missing myself. And here's what I've learned. You can love your baby and miss yourself. You can be grateful and still struggle. Those two things can exist at the same time. And those feelings, they're valid. They're not selfish. They don't make you a bad mom. They make you human. But I do think it's a signal and a sign that something needs to shift. So fast forward to today, life looks very different. I feel like I'm living proof that you can build a life that you are obsessed with without sacrificing your family, your health, or your happiness. But it didn't happen by accident. It happened the moment I did what most moms, I think, are afraid to do. And I intentionally chose me. I got back into a consistent workout routine. I protected my sleep. I have a bedtime. I stick to it. I reprioritized my marriage with my husband because that fell to the back burner when we had kids. I made space for friendships and my social life. And I said yes to things that lit me up, like this podcast, and no to things and people that drained me. And you know what? While all of those things I think people could argue are so selfish, they made me become a better mom, more present, more patient, more joyful, more me. That's what no guilt, just growth is all about. So if you feel like you're drowning in motherhood, like you've lost yourself somewhere in the chaos, like you're craving more you in your life, you are seen, you are not alone, and this space, it's for you. Each week, I'll bring you tactical tips to simplify routines and lighten your mental load. I'll bring you honest conversations about marriage, identity, and guilt. Trust me, I've gone through it all, and sometimes I feel like there's just comfort in knowing that you're not alone. I am so willing to be that person. Real strategies to make time for what matters most and reminders that you're not failing. You may just be carrying too much without the right support. This is a space for real talk and real tools. No fluff, no shame, just growth. If today's episode resonated with you, it would mean the world to me if you subscribed to the show, shared it with another working mom who might need to hear it, or send me a DM on Instagram. My handle is @Kristen Pomper. I would honestly just love to know that you're listening, but also I want to hear your story. Tell me about what you want to hear, because here's what I believe with my whole heart. You don't have to lose yourself to be a good mom. You don't have to settle for burnout just because you're ambitious. You can create a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on paper. Thank you so much for being here. This is just the beginning. I'll talk to you in the next episode. If today's episode resonated with you, it would mean the world if you subscribe to the show. What's that, baby?
I have to do potty.
Okay, let's go potty.